Come on. All right. Come on. Okay, we are live streaming. Almost. Hang on. Come on. Fuck's sake. Why is this not working? There we go. Okay. Guys, if you can hear me, if the audio sounds good, let me know in the chat room. Right, and then we'll get started. Oh, is that what it is? Okay. Okay, it's working. Yay. And okay. Yeah, I actually got the stream up almost on time this week. Alright, I'm starting to figure out this new configuration of Google+. I hope I didn't jinx myself by saying that just now. Okay. Alright, before we start, just a quick disclaimer here. I know I've said this the last 2 weeks, but I really need to keep this one short. I can't go too long this week because I really have a lot to do tonight. Stuff that I should have been doing for the last couple hours. It's kind of against my better judgment that I'm spending time doing this. In fact, if I'm being realistic, I probably shouldn't have even spent time watching Impact because I really do have work to do, and I have another early wake-up call tomorrow. So I'm gonna do everything in my power to keep this one short and sweet. And I don't know if I'll even be able to go through the chat room because that seems to be how I kill a whole lot of time when I do these. So I'm gonna do my best to just keep my thoughts short and concise. Don't quote me on it. I'm gonna try, okay? And I may go through the chat room. I may not. I don't know. We'll see. But I do have kind of some important stuff that I need to do. So this is me procrastinating. Because goddamn, I really wanted to talk about this show with somebody. Because holy Christ. Okay, so let's do it. Can you just like write something in the chat because that doesn't seem to be moving at all. Is that working? Yeah. Okay. Sorry, just me paranoid. I'm overthinking stuff again. Don't mind me. All right. So let's do this thing. So last week, we got the shocking reveal that the Jarretts were in fact untrustworthy, that GFW was here to invade TNA, to take TNA over, to take TNA back for Jeff Jarrett, whatever you want to call it. This was a lot of things. Shocking was not one of them. I think, well, nobody was really shocked unless they were Dixie Carter. Like I said, they've made her out to be the stupidest person imaginable in this whole angle, and unfortunately that would continue, and in fact get worse this week. If you're like me, you probably weren't sure how it could possibly get worse for Dixie, how they could possibly make her stupider than they already have. But by God, they managed it. It's actually pretty impressive. So we start out with the Jarretts leading the GFW roster to the ring for a promo segment. Right away, I start scratching my head. Okay. This might sound like a weird question, but why is GFW still on the show? Think about it. This is a serious question. Okay? How can they still be there? I would assume that after what they did last week, that Dixie fired Jeff Jarrett from his job as the authority figure. They never actually said this, but I would assume that's the case. What's more, in any type of rational, even remotely well-written storyline, Dixie would have immediately banned these people from the Impact Zone just on general principles. I would think. And yet the Jarretts and GFW are not only still there, but they're getting entrances and promo segments. They don't have to, run in through the crowd or fight off security or anything. No, they're getting entrances. They're getting a live mic. They're getting segments devoted to them. How? Who is still letting them in? Why? How the fuck are they even getting in the building at this point? What, because Jarrett has a minority ownership in the company? Okay, but the Carter family has majority ownership in the company. So how the hell does a minority ownership mean anything? What's more, if a minority ownership could get Jarrett on the show whenever he damn well pleased, then how did it stop him from appearing on the show all those other times that he was sent home? Am I making any sense? Let's try to suspend our disbelief here, okay? I can buy, if I push myself, I can buy that a minority ownership would maybe give Jarrett and his family access to the building. But getting him on the show, getting the GFW roster on the show, when they just did what they did last week, no. And it still doesn't explain how they're getting mic time and segments devoted to them and stuff like that. Now, if TNA cannot even anticipate and explain simple, logical questions like this, they're in trouble. Jarrett says that he plans to stage a hostile corporate takeover. How? With wrestling matches? I don't think Jarrett knows exactly what a hostile corporate takeover is. There seems to be some confusion here. But since they're going in this direction now, it's yet another similarity this angle has with the Hogan-Bischoff takeover from a few years ago, which is not a good thing. So yeah, this promo was bullshit. Then Chris Masters gets on the mic. Because he's one of GFW's premier stars, and the fact that Chris Masters is now a part of Global Force Wrestling, that means that he's not a scrub anymore. So basically, Chris Masters says he can beat anyone on the TNA roster. He proceeds to have a far too competitive match with Bobby Lashley. The match was boring because Chris Masters, Mordeski, or Detsky, whatever. He's the same guy. He was never that good to begin with. And that hasn't changed. The GFW guys interfere when Lashley was about to win. The Wolves try to help Lashley, but no one else does. No one else tries to help him for some reason. Only the Wolves come out. So why? I guess so the GFW guys can beat them down. Because why would we want to do something that makes sense, right? I mean, you got a whole roster full of TNA stars who are probably itching to get a piece of these guys, but none of them come out to help the Wolves and Bobby Lashley. They all just stay backstage and do nothing at all. I don't know. Where the hell was everybody else on the TNA roster? I don't know. I guess they had better things to do. Not hard to imagine. If they wanted to disassociate themselves from this angle. I guess I can't really blame them for that. So, the Wolves get beaten down. And then, oh my god. Then the Jarretts pull out the tag team Feast or Fired title shot that had once belonged to Magnus, who apparently off-screen mind you, gave his tag title shot to the Jarretts for them to do with as they wish. And as it turns out, this title shot is somehow still valid. They cashed this fucking thing in on the Wolves. And the Wolves lose the tag team titles to these GFW guys. So you're telling me that Magnus's Feast or Fired tag team title shot is somehow still valid, still legal, after Magnus left the fucking company? And it can be cashed in by someone who's not even a TNA contracted talent. Someone who's not even a TNA employee. Kiss my ass. What kind of sense does that make? And why didn't Dixie Carter send someone out there to help? Send anyone out there to help. I mean, she's going off on Twitter about how, oh, the tag team titles have been stolen by GFW. You know, you could have done something about this. Again, you got a whole roster full of people who probably would have been happy to help you out and stop this from happening. Why didn't you send some of those people out there? A full roster full of TNA stars who are probably itching to get a piece of these GFW assholes, and no one comes out to help the Wolves. Why not? Never explained. And you know what? If this happened because Magnus gave his Feast or Fired title shot to the Jarretts, then you kind of need Magnus to be a part of this angle to make it work. He's kind of an integral figure here because of this. Also because he is the first high-profile TNA star to take off and join GFW, to become the expatriate, you know, to leave TNA and join the bad guys. He's the first big one. He's the first big talent. Now, I'm assuming that there might be more of these to come, but he's the first one. So he's kind of the figurehead of that whole thing. So if you don't have Magnus being a part of this, you're kind of shooting the angle in the foot. How can you not have him be a part of the angle when you do stuff like this? He has to be involved somehow, and yet he's not there. And as I understand it, he won't be there. Well done, TNA writers. You know what you're doing. Really had this all planned out meticulously, didn't you? So then they do Bobby Roode versus PJ Black. You know what? This was a good match. It might have even been an interesting match. Unfortunately, they were fighting for the King of the Mountain Championship, so it wasn't. And apparently, the King of the Mountain title does not have to be defended in King of the Mountain matches. The King of the Mountain title can be defended in a regular match, which seems like that kind of defeats the purpose of the title, doesn't it? I mean, that's like having a pay-per-view only championship and then having it defended on TV. I don't get it. Why is that belt still a thing? Why are they still acting like it's not just a big freaking joke? Have TNA really not figured out how worthless that thing is? They've been treating it like a joke for years. It starts with some joke title that Booker T pulled out of a suitcase as a vanity project. Then they try to make it an officially recognized title, as if that's gonna work when it was created like this. Then it goes through just so many different incarnations. It's the Legends title, then it's the Global title, then it's the TV title. This belt doesn't barely even had an identity. I mean, it's just they try to make it so many different things, and it ends up being nothing to no one. The belt is a fucking joke. And now all of a sudden they're trying to tell us that it actually means something. It doesn't work like that, TNA. It just doesn't. One good thing about this match, though, at least someone came out to help Bobby Roode when GFW tried to screw him over. Thanks, Drew Galloway. Seriously, thank you. Where were you half an hour ago when the Wolves needed a hand? Just saying. So Jeff Jarrett and Dixie have a promo exchange where they try to do some worked shoot stuff to shock the viewers and, you stole my company, you removed me from power, blah, blah, blah. If Jeff still has the power to put himself on the show due to his minority ownership, where he can somehow not be removed, where he's free to stay there and bring all these people on the show and do whatever the hell he wants, basically, then it doesn't seem like he's been removed from any sort of power at all, and in fact never really was. So this whole argument rings really hollow to me. Then, holy shit, and then Dixie decides, fuck this noise. She's gonna put her majority ownership of TNA up for grabs against Jeff's minority ownership. Winner take all, to be decided by the result of a wrestling match. Dixie, this is completely unnecessary. You don't need to do this. There are any number of ways to fix this problem without putting the ownership of your fucking company at stake. Don't you think you should explore some of those possibilities first? Before you do this? This is asinine. Remember when Hulk Hogan just magically decided, for no reason whatsoever, that he'd give TNA back to Dixie Carter if Sting beat him in a match at Bound for Glory? That's what this was like. There's absolutely no reason for Dixie to do this, when there are so many other things that she could have done instead that would have been so much smarter. You can't do this. You can't just have Dixie give Jarrett a chance to win full ownership of TNA when she clearly doesn't have to and expect people to buy into it. This is the absolute last resort when there's absolutely no other option in the fucking world type of scenario. It's not supposed to be plan A. Then something good happened. Momentarily. And it only took an hour and 15 minutes. It's an impressive feat. Kenny King is back. That's good. He does some quick promo work to brush all the Beatdown Clan stuff off the table, which I'm totally fine with. You gotta put that thing in your rear view as concisely as you can. So I was cool with that. Best Kenny distanced himself from that situation. Best for everybody. So he seems to do an impromptu face turn, which I'm also fine with. and he issues an open challenge. Bram comes out. So, I guess he made bail just in time. Bram beats Kenny King. Oh my God. Leave it to TNA. Just leave it to TNA to take a talented young star, future world champion, a guy that they should have been building up, at least before he did what he did, and then put him over at the worst possible time imaginable. And had to have it be at the expense of Kenny King, who just returned to TV. God damn it. So is Kenny going to be taking all the heat for the Hernandez debacle now that MVP is gone? Because that's really not fair. It's not. And quite frankly, that's the kind of pettiness that TNA really can't afford anymore. And that's really all I care to say about that, because this was bad timing on steroids. This was just this couldn't have played out worse if you'd given booking power to someone who wanted to drive the company out of business and says, what's the worst possible thing I can do to them, to give them some bad PR, just to make them look really, really stupid. Hey, I'll take that guy who just got arrested for, felony assault charges. And then I'll take a talented young guy that a lot of people want to see get back on TV after he's been off TV for some time due to a really stupid situation that could have been easily avoided. I'll put them both in the ring, and I'll take the guy who was just arrested on felony charges and put him over. Yeah, I'll have him win the match. It could not have worked out worse if it was all by design. If someone had booked it that way on purpose just to screw them over, it could not have gone worse. It could not have been a worse decision. And I know it's not their fault because this show was taped weeks and weeks and weeks ago. But still, I mean, the timing of this was kind of remarkable. Then it got stupid. Stupider. Whatever. Velvet Sky came out. She says a bunch of bullshit about how the knockout division has been changing so much, which is not true at all. In fact, lately, TNA seem to have been making a concentrated effort to prevent the knockout division from changing as much as they can. So, then Velvet calls out the Dollhouse, because, according to her, the Dollhouse is more out of control than ever before. No, not really. Maybe you could have said that about the Dollhouse before Gail Kim buried them 1-on-3. But you can't really say that anymore. No, they've lost something. They've lost a lot of something. So Jade and Marty and Rebel come out because Taryn's still doing the Big Brother thing, and they beat down Velvet. And they couldn't even let us have that, Because at this point, Angelina and Madison show up and make the save for no fucking reason at all. Even though Angelina and Madison just got done feuding with Velvet Sky. Even though they hated Velvet Sky last time I checked. Even though they are pretty much the last people on this roster who would want to save Velvet Sky from a beating for any reason. But no, apparently the threat of the Dollhouse, who, for the record, just got fucking embarrassed, shamed, and buried by Gail Kim 1-on-3. The threat of these people was so great that it necessitated yet another Beautiful People reunion. Even though the last Beautiful People reunion, which wasn't even that long ago, completely tanked. The writers thought this was a thing that needed to happen. Are you kidding me with this? Are these writers even trying anymore? If you've followed me for any length of time, you probably know what my thoughts on this are. So instead of reiterating them once again, I'll just say this. Thank you. Thank you, Davey Richards, for knocking up Angelina Love. Because if she's got a bun in the oven, that means that she's out for at least a year. And that means that this reunion, Beautiful People reunion number 10,572, will most likely be short-lived. Mercifully. Unless they try to continue it with just Velvet and Madison, which was the most forgettable and underwhelming incarnation of the group ever. Good Lord. Could even our Lord of Wrestling EC3 in hashtag God mode save the show at this point? Let's find out. Main event was EC3 versus Matt Hardy for the world title. You know, I really don't agree with Matt Hardy being booked this strongly. God bless him. I'm glad he's gotten his shit together, but EC3 should not need this much interference to beat Matt Hardy. Yeah, we're building this guy up into something more than what he really is. I'm sorry. I know EC3 did win, but Matt had a pin on him when the ref was out. Matt was kicking out of stuff that I didn't really buy him kicking out of. Maybe this is a gateway to EC3 versus Jeff. Maybe it's a gateway to Matt versus Jeff, which would be really stupid right now. I'm not really anticipating that. I don't know what you can really get out of Jeff being EC3's personal assistant aside from cheap heat. On paper, it seems like kind of a dumb idea, especially when the rules have been left so deliberately vague. But credit where it's due, at least the crowd was really engaged in this match, and that was probably the only match of the show you could say that about. So, I guess we'll see. This creative team is out of ideas. Bottom line. They are out of ideas. We got another slight variation on the tired old invasion angle that we've seen a million times before, getting the Beautiful People back together again, despite no one really having any real desire to see them continue to beat that dead horse as far as I can tell. And why? I don't know. I guess they just couldn't think of anything else to do. Dixie, it's time to get some new writers. please, stop spinning your wheels. Stop treading water. Just get some new fucking writers. The time has come. Hell, the time came a long time ago and you still continued on with these people. It's just... They've got nothing left in the tank. And it's obvious. I don't know why she won't do anything about this problem. It's just... makes no damn sense to me. And I have really talked about this too long. All right, you know what? I'm going to skim over the chat room real quickly. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to skip a bunch of these comments and questions. But I really need to get some stuff done. And I've probably talked about this too long as it is. Duke Nukem 3DO wants me to let it go. Well, I should just not mention it when something stupid happens that makes no sense. Yeah, sorry, I'm not wired that way. Jeff Atwood. Am I planning on catching up on The Walking Dead? Anything's possible, but I doubt it. The first 2 seasons really gave me no desire to watch anymore. Andre Corbeil is there. Hello. Sorry, I'm having to skim over these. Yeah, it's just Steve Trowbridge just getting the beautiful people back together again, just for no reason, because they got nothing else to do with them. And it's the only it's the only thing they can come up with for Velvet and Angelina. I mean, it's been years of this now. It's just a pattern. They get back together, then they break up, and they're separate for a while, and then they get stale, and then they get back together again, even though nobody wants to see it anymore. What TNA should do is release Angelina, Velvet, and Madison, and maybe Rebel, and sign the Canadian Ninjas Allison Kay, Crazy Mary Dobson, and Kaylee Ray, and then they'd have an awesome knockout division. Yeah. I agree. Velvet, Angelina, and Madison, creatively, they should have been phased out a long time ago. And stuff like this that we saw tonight is a perfect example. They have nothing to do that's interesting anymore. Nothing that isn't a retread of something they've done, something that they probably did years ago, and it did it a lot better. Mariah Benetatos, which I'm sure I'm pronouncing wrong. 10-10-10 comparison, ballsy move. It's not that far-fetched, really. There are a lot of similarities. Chris Masters, Duke Nukem 3DO defending Chris Masters. Respectfully disagree. Save me one. GFW had to steal TNA talent because without it, the roster sucks. While their women's roster is not that bad. Well, their women's roster has improved. I don't know how many of those women are sticking around, or how many of them are just there for like one show or two, or like a live event here and there. But yeah, I guess Mickey's there now. I guess Cherry Bomb is there for a certain number of shows, and I heard Candice LeRae was going to work a show, maybe a live event, maybe a TV taping. I don't know, but yeah, they've hired some good women there. Lady Tapa is still there for reasons I don't understand. That sucks. But they do have some talented women in there. Steve Trowbridge. Glad they did something with Kenny King. Well, at least he was on TV doing something. Uh, how unfortunately, I don't. I have a feeling he may be taking the brunt of the blame for the Hernandez situation because he's the only one left that they can blame. And we've seen from this company before that people backstage they like to hold grudges about stuff like that. Um, look how long the Motor City Machine Guns were in the doghouse. I think it was like in 2008 or 2009, something like that. I mean, those guys were treated like shit for a good solid year because they didn't want to because Alex Shelley didn't want to do a blade job or something like that. They left so much money on the table with those guys for reasons I don't understand. I mean, TNA management can be petty about stuff like that. They can. So I'm glad Kenny King was back. I'm just not too optimistic that this is going to be a productive return for him. Dixie let the titles. Dixie let the titles be stolen. Yeah, pretty much. Didn't do a damn thing to stop it. I'm sorry, I'm having to skip over these. Mariah Benitez. I don't know how to pronounce that. Love the hair. Thank you. Don't get used to it. It's probably coming off soon. We Bear 50. What's your real name? Why do you call yourself Fool Killer? I choose not to reveal my full name, my real name, just for privacy reasons. I call myself Fool Killer because way back when I was joining YouTube for the first time, I chose a different name which was already taken, and I chose like 50 other names which were already taken, and at that point I just started picking names randomly, and this was the first one that I came up with that was not already being used, and that's how I wound up with this, with Fool Killer. To be honest, I would change it if I could. If I could go back and pick something else, I probably would because I don't even really like it that much, to be honest with you. I think it's pretentious, and at the time I was like, okay, I'll take it because at least it's something that's not being used by some other YouTuber. But I should have been more patient and come up with something else that I like a little bit better. And at this point, I've had it for so long now that I'm kind of stuck with it. That's how I got my name. Sorry, it's not a more interesting story. I did not watch the VMAs. Sorry. We Bear 50. I heard some pretty bad things though. Heard Miley sucked, which was not surprising to me. Uh, uh, Mariah, I'm not big on the whole personal assistant storylines. Yeah, neither am I. I fail to see what you can really get from this aside from cheap heat. Um, they did this with the Bellas, a while back, and that they did absolutely nothing with that. That went nowhere. Of course, most Diva storylines end up going absolutely nowhere. I am sure TNA will do a little bit more with EC3 and Jeff Hardy than that. But what can they really do with it? I mean, they went out of their way to show to explain to us last week that they can pretty much end it whenever they want and make up the rules of it as they go along. And that's not a good indication that they have a good, solid, concrete plan for this. So I'm not optimistic that this is going to turn out well. Because it really doesn't seem like they have a plan. Oh. To me, right now, Karen Jarrett is the Cersei Lannister of Impact Wrestling. Oh, please, let's not associate Karen Jarrett with something cool like Game of Thrones. Can we not do that, please? It'd be hilarious if Karen Jarrett were in the ring, starting to cut a promo, and then the lights would go out, come back on, and Gale jumps and beats the shit out of Karen. Oh, that would be wonderful. But it'll never happen. Would be fun to fantasize about, though. Darkman060, thoughts on the Bram situation? Really unfortunate. I thought he was one of the most talented young guys that TNA have brought in some time. I was a big fan of Bram. I thought he could be a future world champion if he were used right. And I think the fact that he got himself in trouble and allegedly did what he did sucks. I think it's horrible timing. And sadly, I have very little sympathy for him if this completely fucks up his life. I have zero. There are a few things in life that I have zero tolerance for. Violence against women is one of them. In real life, not worked. If it's worked, then fine. But in real life, no. That is something you do not do ever. Yeah, I have no sympathy for his situation. If he did what they're accusing him of, then I would not sympathize with him if they fired him. They think they probably should and will fire him, and the whole thing sucks, in my opinion. Okay, last bunch of questions, and then I have to get to work. I mean it this time. Do you think Magnus being in GFW can create a good storyline? I think it had the potential for a good storyline if it had been executed the right way. But it looks like instead of executing it the right way, they're just going to kind of ignore it. Because Magnus seemed like he was kind of glad to be done with TNA. I think he's kind of indicated that's the case in interviews. I don't think he really wants to be a part of the angle. So that sucks, because there was a really good story here. One of the more compelling stories, or most compelling stories, that you could have gotten out of an angle like this. And it looks like they're just not going to go there. And it just seems like a big waste. HBE Hain 4441, why isn't EC3 leading the charge in this invasion storyline? Probably because that would make him a face. Otherwise, he really should be. If the circumstances were different. But, if they want to keep him a heel, then I get it. It's unfortunate that the timing couldn't have worked out better. I guess they want Drew Galloway to kind of be like the guy leading the spearhead of Team TNA. Which, I'm okay with that. Under ideal circumstances, EC3 would have been the better choice, I think, but he's the heel. They can't really go there. Steve Trowbridge, that was not funny. Not funny. Corey Andrew Wright, attempting to earn my MA degree currently and my MFA degree very soon. I hope to be a creative writer for a professional wrestling promotion like Shine Wrestling. Good luck to you, dude. Good luck to you. I know a lot of us have kind of played with that idea. A lot of us have kind of tried to make that happen personally. Oh, I've applied to be a writer to pro wrestling companies myself. I've applied for jobs, at to several different companies. It was kind of a goal of mine for a long time to work in the professional wrestling industry. That it didn't work out for me. Anything can happen in the future, but you know what? It's I guess Vince Russo will tell you that it's there's not a lot of opportunity there, so it's really hard to get your foot in the door. But hey, if you want to go for it, dude. I wish you the best of luck. Deontay 320, be awesome if Karen talks. Let's go out. Be awesome if Karen talks. The lights go out, and then then they go back on, and Karen and the creative team disappears. Another thing that would be fun to fantasize about. All right, guys. Last two questions. I'm sorry, that's gonna have to be it. All right, Steve Trowbridge. Okay, fine. Karen is the Lana Lang of TNA because she's super freaking annoying. That is a much better analogy. Steve Trowbridge. Marty isn't great in the ring, but I don't think she's terrible either, like some people are saying. I haven't really seen a whole lot of Marty Bell. I think she's probably better on the mic than she is in the ring. I've never really been super impressed with her wrestling skills. I don't think she's terrible. TNA has certainly employed women that are much worse than she is. I wouldn't necessarily want to see her win the Knockouts title, at least not yet. Without giving her, without seeing if she can improve a lot. Of course, I try to keep the standards for that championship high. I know that the standards have been lowered considerably over the years. I'm undecided on Marty. I'm on the fence with her. I'd like to give her some more time to see if she can prove herself. I don't think she's performed badly. I think she could have. There's some things I think she could do better. So I'm undecided with her. But yeah, Jade, I like Jade. I like a lot though. She could be Knockouts champion easily if she were booked better. But apparently they just want her to be cannon fodder for Gail Kim. They want, as they want Marty to be cannon fodder for Gail Kim right now, and that kind of sucks. I've gone over that a lot. I've gone over that, ad nauseum. It's just they're kind of sacrificing. They sacrifice the dollhouse to make Gail Kim look good, and then all of a sudden they're supposed to be this huge threat that makes the beautiful people put aside their differences and get back together so they can fight these girls off after Gail Kim has just made them look ridiculous. That doesn't work. That's horrible storytelling. That's just okay, Direwolf 87. What are your thoughts on Angelina Love's pregnancy? I already went over that, talked about it during the review. So just you can just rewind that and watch the review portion once this gets uploaded. And I'm sorry, that has got to be it. I got to cut this off because I got shit to do, and I'm gonna be up late doing that. And I've already talked about this longer than I should have, and then I gotta try to get some sleep before my early wake up call tomorrow. So I gotta end it there. Thanks for joining me, and talk to you next week. Sorry to cut you guys off, but can't really be helped. Later. Bye.